Welcome to the ZebraZapps Editor Interactivity Concepts Tutorial Part 2 Message Center Wiring. This tutorial will cover the basic principles on how the ZebraZapps Editor allows developers to create interactivity without coding. In Part 1 of this tutorial we discussed object message centers. We will continue with wiring between message centers to create interactivity. We'll start out with a simple example of displaying and erasing objects using a toggle button. Currently, there is one checkbox toggle button on the screen. We will title this US Headquarters. Just do this by clicking on the title. Let's take a quick look at its message center. As you can see, the title of the button also becomes the title of the message center. Next, we'll go over to the resource library and add in a US map. This map's a little large, so we'll find its handles and resize it so it fits properly on our stage. Make it a little bit smaller. Close up the resource library. Let's also go to the map message center and lock it so we lock the image in place. Next thing we want to do is create a token that's going to point to our US headquarters. So we'll click on the polygon object. We'll make it a three-sided polygon and we'll draw that on the stage. We'll go over to our inspector and we'll turn off the line weight. We'll make that 0 so we don't see a line around it. And we'll change our fill color to red. And we'll point to our Minneapolis headquarters. Now we can title this message center City Token. Next, we need to connect the checkbox button with the token object. So we do this by wiring these objects. So we're going to start with our checkbox button, and when we click on this and it changes from unchecked to checked, we want to then show this particular object. So let's start out by going to our outs for the checkbox button. We'll look through these. These are clicks, so that's not going to tell us whether it's gone from off to on. If we go to our triggers, there is an out action trigger that says when this is checked on. So let's zoom in a little bit, get a little bit closer look at this. Okay, and we can move this over a bit. As you can see on the checked on ribbon, we have these ports on either side of the ribbon. These are wire ports, and when we click and hold the left mouse button down and drag out, you can see we create this wire. This is a communication wire, and it's going to tell another object to do something when this button is checked on. So let's just drag this wire over to the other object we want to talk to, the city token polygon. As you can see, when we drag the wire over that object, it opens up its message center. We can now continue dragging, go to the ends, go to display, and then we can select the action that we want to perform, such as show that object. So if I let up on the left mouse button, it will actually make a connection between these two objects. So when it's checked on, it'll show. Let's say I want to make another action when it's checked off. I can do the same thing. I can go over to its ends and select hide. So we've just told this object when these triggers happen, we want to do these actions. Show and hide based on checked on and checked off. Now let's see how this works. Go up to the event and let's run this event. Now one thing we're going to notice is that token is already showing currently. We don't want that to occur, so we're going to go back and do an edit reset. and change the visibility of this object to hide on run equals true. So this object is selected, we go to its inspector, say hide on run is true. What that does is tells that object to hide when we put this in run mode. And this is a common property that you change to have things not showing when you start to run or start the event, and then have something else triggered to show or hide it. So let's run this again, and now you can see that that token is gone, it's hidden, and when I click to check this button it shows, and click it off it goes away. So that's how easy it is to make that interaction using the wires. We'll go back to Edit Reset. Now let's show some techniques for wire maintenance. So if I roll my pointer over the wire, you can see that it becomes highlighted or thicker, and this means that that wire is selected. If I want to clip the wire or get rid of it, I can just click and that will take it away. So that's how I can erase a wire. I can again add it back in real easily. If I go to the wire and it becomes selected and I click and I hold my left mouse button down, I now have the ability to go and change and rewire it to something. So I can easily rewire by just clicking, holding, and then attaching it to a more appropriate action. Let's add one more object to the stage. We'll add some text and we'll put a title here. So we'll put in Minneapolis and we'll say HQ City. Let's go over to the inspector. We're going to give it a fill. We'll give it a little bit of a fill so we can kind of see through it, but the city stands out a little bit better. Now I want this to appear and disappear with the token. So let's take a look at the wiring again. Now one of the nice things is we can pull more than one wire out of that port. So I can do more than one thing when this is checked on. So let's go up to the city text and do the same thing. We're going to show, and I can move that so we can see this a little bit better, and I can pull another wire from checked off and say hide. So here we have more than one wire coming out of those triggers and going to multiple types of actions. Let's see how this looks. Okay, what do we do? I need to say, on this object, I need to say hide on run, so we'll change that and we'll run it again. Just that easy. And now when that gets checked on, they both show, checked off, they go away. These wiring basics are the cornerstone for all interactivity development in the editor. This concludes the tutorial on creating interactivity concepts, part 2. The following tutorials will build on these concepts.